Good morning. You listen to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Bruce Zwicker, an industry consultant and former CEO with J.J. Haynes. Bruce, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kemp. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to talk to you. We're talking here on Friday morning. There's several earnings reports that have come out. I thought we'd start talking about that. Let me open up with Dixie. Dixie's results came out today. It looks like their sales down 13.5%. And another loss, 1.8 million loss, which is a smaller loss than they've been having. But I guess the silver lining here is they're pointing out that if you take the Lowe's loss out on a year-over-year comparison, their sales were only down 7%. And we've heard that the industry carpet sale number is down 13%. So they're actually taking a little bit of share. I think their business is still probably 80% carpet. Maybe they're ready to turn a quarter. What do you think?
Yeah, I think buried in there too is this restructuring cost, so it's a little hard to parse it out on the net income or loss side. Of course, they talked about the Lowe's business, so they've obviously pivoted, and they're picking up share elsewhere, and so that's why the number looks better when you extract Lowe's from it. But yeah, it's not bad given the circumstances.
And then Interface, they've come out with their first quarter results. Sales were up 2.7% in Q1. And if you just take the USA, their sales were up 8.1%.
Those are some pretty good numbers for Q1.
I agree, especially since, Mohawk, when this came out a week ago, their overall sales down 6%. Their flooring North America sales dropped 11%, but obviously they're more heavily residential.
Right. I think most of that was carpet. On an operating margin basis, they're breaking even. Some of that is attributed to the fact that they're curtailing production. We've got this issue of both volume, price, cost, mix, and margin. It's a tough point right now for the industry in this. It was in the first quarter and will be in the second. I read Jeff's comments and Chris's and so on in the earnings transcript. I thought they did a pretty accurate job. It's a very complicated business when you look at all the pieces around the world. A couple of things stand out. In tile is a product category is doing better than other categories. He talked about a recovery remodeling in the second half. At the same time, they were being conservative, talking about the commercial sector slowing, which I believe to be the case as well. So I just don't know about that recovery in the fourth quarter. If you look at the reports from LIRA and you look at the RMI, it points to deceleration in the remodeling sector. And when you couple that with the fact that we've got the price inflation that we're now giving back and the units are on the decline, so even if units level out, we've got a hit on revenue because the price is eroding, if you will. So I'm less optimistic than Jeff is about the second half of remodeling from a dollar standpoint, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of these public companies and actually a lot of businesses, when they compare a quarter's performance, they compare it to the previous year. And as you know, the first half of 22 was a very strong half as in regards to demand. So they'll be comping against weaker numbers.
Yeah,
and I think
correct.
That when they say it's going to be better, I think that's what they mean by being better. What do you think?
Well, I think he was commenting about the market, which is what I'm debating about here because I don't agree. But I agree with you. And that's why this first quarter is particularly bad in terms of the earnings because it's comping against the strongest quarter of last year. Well, you're right. Everyone will look a lot smarter in the fourth quarter than they did in the first.
Okay. So you were telling me Floor & Decor's numbers are out as well, right?
Yeah. So Floor & Decor had their earnings call yesterday, and on a same-store basis, they were down on 6%, which was in their guidance. And their guidance for the year was between flat to, +3. Their transactions were down almost 10%. One of the things that stands out is the average ticket. So the average ticket has been growing, obviously because of price, while square footage might be the same. So two things stood out to me in their earnings transcript. One was the average ticket is now lower. What's happening is two things simultaneously. One is the square footage of projects is going down. And then secondly, the price is going down, meaning Floor & Decor is selling at a lower price. Floor & Decor typically has not used the word price. They've used a euphemism. They called it retail. They talked about how they were confident about their retail versus their competitors. in the last quarter's earnings transcript. This time, they were quite clear. They're positioning themselves as value, price signage in the stores. What we're seeing is this deceleration in price, the giving back of the price from inflation is underway more strongly now coming out of the first quarter, because the first quarter's demand wasn't anything that anyone hoped for. It was too low. And so there's still too much inventory in the system.
Okay. So Floor & Decor, the new Walmart of flooring, huh?
Well, they did comment that their higher priced products are doing better, which, I think is true for everyone. Is the higher priced products, people who have money are spending it. They're just not doing as many projects, and the projects aren't quite as big, but there's a trade down factor going on.
But the NWFA show was this week, and we hear it's well attended. Pretty smart on their part to have this thing in Milwaukee. I think the demographics are a good match for that installer craftsman, up there with Bratwurst and Harley Davidson. And I understand, even though it's in a cold climate compared to where they were previously, attendance was pretty good.
Yeah, I saw the picture of Michael and his biker gear. I like the NWFA a lot. I think, they do a great job. And, if you look at coverings attendance, you look at BOW attendance, you look at NWFA attendance, and back to surfaces as well. I mean, we're back, right? So the industry is out and about. So that's really good news. I couldn't get there either. I have been very, very busy. So right now, I'm working as the executive vice chair of IDG, we're about $450 million in floor covering, tile, countertops, appliances, garage doors, all kinds of things. But also just took on an assignment as interim CEO for a company called Du Chateau on the West Coast. So I'm shuttling back and forth, as well as going over to Europe for a client every 6 to 8 weeks, working with them on product strategy. Where in Europe, things are obviously much worse than they are over here. Although BOW was very well attended. So they're hopeful over there, but they've got a longer road than we do.
Yeah, and they're celebrating a new king, I guess, on Saturday, right?
Yep. I don't know about you, but I'm not getting up at 5 a.m.
I'm watching the Derby. Du Chateau, that's mostly hardwood, isn't it?
Yes, hardwood, and it's also an LVP as well. So very high end, very fashion conscious. It's really a Du Chateau type of high end experience. So it's a great company. They're going to be featured in Architectural Digest. They've done a project for RuPaul, and it's amazing when you see this. It's a good company, and it's fun working with those folks.
All right, Bruce, it's good to catch up with you. My next trip is to StarNet. Where are you headed next?
Well, I'm heading back to San Diego. I'm also doing a presentation for AMI Plastics on the subject of LVT over in Berlin. It's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Happy to hear you're staying busy again. Been talking to Bruce Zwicker, an industry consultant, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.